The 12 Community. Buddha, the path of awareness and freedom from suffering. The human problem before the Buddha. Before we speak about the Buddha, we must speak about the problem he came to understand. Because the Buddha did not begin with religion. He began with a question about suffering. And suffering is something every human, from every culture, every belief, every intelligence level, already understands. You do not need education to know pain. You do not need philosophy to know loss. You do not need religion to feel fear. A child understands suffering. A king understands suffering. A scholar understands suffering. A farmer understands suffering. This is where the Buddha begins, not in heaven, not in myth, but in human experience. More than 2,500 years ago, in the lands of ancient India and Nepal, people were deeply spiritual, but also deeply confused. Religion was everywhere, but clarity was rare. There were many rituals, many sacrifices, many ceremonies, many priests. But ordinary people still suffered the same inner struggles. Why am I not at peace? Why does happiness disappear? Why do I fear losing what I love? Why does desire never feel finished? Why does the mind never stay quiet? These questions were not being answered clearly. Most teachings at that time said, do the ritual, offer the sacrifice, follow the priest, accept your fate. But very few said, look directly into your own mind. This is important to understand, because the Buddha's revolution was not against religion. It was against confusion. He did not come to destroy faith. He came to remove blindness. He did not come to create followers. He came to create observers. Observers of the mind. Observers of suffering. Observers of reality as it is. Now, understand this carefully. The Buddha did not start with a theory about God. He did not start with a theory about creation. He did not start with a theory about the universe. He started with a practical human question. Why do we suffer? And can suffering end? This is why his teaching travels across religions even today. Because before you are Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or anything else, you are human. And humans suffer. Think carefully. Even when life is comfortable, the mind is restless. Even when you get what you want, a new want appears. Even when you succeed, fear of losing success appears. Even when you love, fear of losing the loved one appears. Pleasure comes, but does not stay. Pain comes, and we cannot stop it fully. So the human being lives between wanting what changes and fearing what changes. This tension is suffering. Not only physical pain, but inner instability. Most people try to solve suffering by control. Control people. Control outcomes, control emotions, control image, control belief. But control does not bring peace. It brings exhaustion. The Buddha will later discover something radical. Suffering is not solved by controlling life. Suffering is solved by understanding the mind. But we are not there yet. First, a child must be born. A child who will not accept borrowed answers. In the next part, we enter his birth, his name, the prophecy, and why his father tried to hide reality from him. The birth, the name, and the prophecy. The one who would later be called the Buddha was born as a human child, not a symbol, not a myth. His birth name was Siddhartha Gautama. Siddhartha means one who has achieved a purpose. This name was not random. It reflected a hope and later a destiny. He was born around the 6th century BCE in a region between present-day Nepal and northern India. His family belonged to a royal warrior clan. His father was a ruling chief, not an emperor of a vast empire, but a powerful regional leader. So Siddhartha was born into privilege, protection, and power. He did not begin life in poverty. He did not begin life in struggle. This is important because his awakening did not come from misery. It came from seeing clearly. According to historical tradition, soon after his birth, wise seers were invited to examine the child. In that culture, spiritual observers often gave life predictions based on deep symbolic reading. The seers gave 2 possible futures. They said, "This child will become one of 2 things. Either a great worldly ruler, a king of influence and power, or a great spiritual teacher who will guide humanity." But they added something that troubled his father. They said, if he sees the suffering of life clearly, he will choose the spiritual path. This frightened the father, because rulers want heirs, not renunciates. Power wants continuation, not awakening. So the father made a decision that would shape Siddhartha's early life completely. He would hide suffering from him. Not by lying, but by controlling his environment. He ordered that the child, and later the young prince, should never be exposed to serious illness, old age, death, extreme poverty, spiritual renunciation. Anything that might trigger deep questioning was kept away. Now understand the psychological meaning here. This matters. Protection can become imprisonment when it hides truth. Comfort can become blindness when it prevents understanding. Many humans today live the same pattern, not in palaces, but in distractions. Constant entertainment, constant noise, constant stimulation. Not because truth is absent, but because silence is avoided. Siddhartha grew in beauty and refinement. He received the best education available at that time: philosophy, language, strategy, leadership, meditation basics, physical training. He was intelligent, observant, and inwardly sensitive. Not reckless, not cruel, not arrogant. Multiple early accounts describe him as thoughtful, even as a child. The kind of mind that does not only enjoy, but wonders. He married young. He had a wife, later a son. From the outside, his life looked complete. Power ahead, family present, comfort guaranteed. But inside, a question was forming. Because even when pleasure surrounds you, the mind still asks, is this permanent? Is this enough? Is this safe? This quiet dissatisfaction is not weakness. It is often the beginning of awakening. In the next part, we enter the protected palace life and the invisible cracks in comfort that begin the turning of his path. The protected palace and the hidden restlessness. Siddhartha grew up surrounded by beauty, luxury, and careful control. His father did not only want him safe, he wanted him undisturbed by reality. 3 seasonal palaces were prepared for him, one for heat, one for cold, one for the rainy season. Music filled the halls, gardens were always fresh, servants were instructed to appear healthy and joyful. No visible suffering was allowed near him. Even aging workers were kept away from his sight. Understand what this means. This was not only physical protection, it was psychological shielding. His environment was designed to send one message: life is pleasant, life is stable, life is under control. But truth cannot be permanently edited, and the human mind, when intelligent, eventually senses when something is missing. Even with pleasure everywhere, Siddhartha began to feel an inner tension. Not depression, not rebellion, a quiet questioning, a sense that comfort alone does not answer life. This is a subtle stage many people experience, but often ignore. Everything looks fine, yet something inside asks deeper questions. Most people silence that voice with distraction. Siddhartha did not. Historical traditions describe him as unusually observant. He noticed emotional shifts. He noticed dissatisfaction. He noticed that pleasure fades quickly after it arrives. He saw that desire renews itself endlessly. You want, you get, you relax, then you want again. This cycle began to disturb him. Not because desire is evil, but because it is unstable. Anything unstable cannot be the foundation of peace. He also began noticing something else. Fear hides behind pleasure. The fear of losing it, the fear of change, the fear that something unknown waits outside the protected walls. He asked to leave the palace grounds more often. At first, these trips were tightly controlled. Routes were cleaned, scenes were staged. But control systems eventually fail, because reality is larger than planning. And one day, the truth broke through. Not as philosophy, not as theory, but as sight, direct sight. This moment is one of the most important turning points in spiritual history, because awakening rarely begins with belief, it begins with seeing. In the next part, we enter the moment that shattered the illusion, what is known as the 4 sights, the encounters that changed his life forever. The 4 sights, when illusion breaks. One day, Siddhartha left the palace grounds with a charioteer assigned to guide him. Unlike previous outings, this journey was not perfectly controlled. Reality slipped through the protection, and what he saw changed the direction of his entire life. These moments are remembered as the 4 sights, not visions, not dreams, real encounters. First sight, old age. He saw a man whose body was bent, hair white, skin wrinkled, movement slow and strained. Siddhartha was confused. He asked the charioteer, "What is wrong with this man?" The answer came, "He is old. This happens to all who live long." This shocked him, because he had never been shown aging before. He asked, "Will this happen to me?" The answer, "Yes. If you live, you age." Understand this moment. What everyone else accepted as normal, he was seeing for the first time. Truth is often shocking when it has been hidden. Second sight, sickness. Soon after, he saw a person lying in visible pain, weak, trembling, suffering from disease. He asked, "What causes this?" The answer, "This is illness. It can happen to anyone." Not only the poor, not only the weak, anyone. Now 2 illusions were broken. Youth is not permanent. Health is not guaranteed. Third sight, death. Then he saw something even more disturbing. A still body being carried, surrounded by mourners. He asked, "What is happening?" The answer, "This person has died. All who are born die." This was the deepest shock, because death had been completely hidden from him, not discussed, not shown, not acknowledged. Now it stood in front of him, undeniable, not as an idea, but as a reality. 3 pillars of false security collapsed in one journey: youth, health, life itself. None were stable. Most people respond to this realization with fear or denial, but Siddhartha responded with inquiry. This is what makes a seeker different from an avoider. Avoiders distract themselves from truth. Seekers move toward it. Fourth sight, the seeker. Then came the 4th encounter. He saw a wandering spiritual ascetic, calm, simple, inwardly steady, not rich, not protected, but peaceful. He asked, "Who is this man?" The answer, a seeker, one who has left comfort to understand life and suffering. This sight did not frighten him, it gave him direction. For the first time, he saw a human being not escaping suffering, but confronting it with purpose. This is the turning point. The 4 sights created a chain reaction. Seeing aging, Arrow broke illusion of lasting youth. Seeing sickness, Arrow broke illusion of bodily control. Seeing death, Arrow broke illusion of permanence. Seeing the seeker, Arrow revealed a path. That night, Siddhartha could not return to unconscious comfort. Once truth is seen clearly, illusion loses its power. Next, we enter the moment known as the Great Renunciation, when he leaves the palace, his status, and security to search for an answer to suffering. The Great Renunciation, leaving comfort for truth. After seeing the 4 sights, Siddhartha could no longer return to unconscious living. Outwardly, nothing had changed. The palace still stood, music still played, luxury still surrounded him. But inwardly, everything had changed. This is how awakening begins for many people. The world looks the same, but your seeing is different. What once distracted you no longer satisfies you. Questions grow louder than pleasures. Siddhartha began to reflect deeply. If aging cannot be stopped, if sickness cannot be avoided, if death cannot be escaped, then what is true security? Not political power, not wealth, not pleasure. Because all 3 are temporary. He also saw something else clearly. No one around him was seriously investigating suffering itself. People were coping, distracting, ritualizing, but not understanding. One night, after deep reflection, he made a decision that would define his life. He would leave. Not to escape responsibility, but to seek truth at the root level. This moment is called the Great Renunciation. Not renunciation of love, but renunciation of illusion. Not rejection of humanity, but service to humanity at a deeper level. According to tradition, he went to see his sleeping wife and child. He did not wake them. Not because he did not care, but because hesitation could weaken resolve. Great inner decisions are often quiet. No announcement, no ceremony, just clarity. He removed his royal ornaments, changed into simple clothing, left behind status and inheritance. Understand the magnitude of this choice. He was not poor, choosing spirituality because he had nothing. He was privileged, choosing truth over power. That is a different kind of sacrifice. But we must also be honest and balanced in teaching this. His choice was spiritually great, but humanly costly. Leaving family is not a universal instruction. It is not required for awakening. His outer renunciation was specific to his path. The deeper teaching is this: everyone must eventually renounce illusion, even if they do not renounce home. You may keep your work, your family, your society, but you must let go of false certainty if you want truth. That night, Siddhartha crossed a boundary. Not just a city boundary, a psychological boundary. From protected identity to unknown seeker. From prince to student of reality. Next, we enter his years of searching. Teachers, philosophies, meditation systems, and why borrowed knowledge was not enough. The search. Teachers, systems, and borrowed wisdom. After leaving the palace, Siddhartha did not immediately become enlightened. He became a student. This is important, because true teachers are first true learners. He travelled across regions known for spiritual practice. He met respected meditation masters and philosophers. He studied the deepest teachings available at that time. These were not fake teachers. They were highly disciplined practitioners with real inner experience. Under them, Siddhartha learned advanced meditation states, deep concentration, expanded awareness, mental stillness beyond ordinary thought. And he succeeded quickly. Records say he mastered their techniques faster than most students. Some teachers even invited him to stay and lead alongside them. But he refused, not out of pride, but out of honesty. Because although these practices produced powerful inner states, they did not answer his original question. They produced altered experience, but not complete freedom from suffering. This distinction matters. A peaceful state is not the same as permanent liberation. A calm experience is not the same as deep understanding. He noticed something subtle. When meditation ended, mental patterns returned. Attachment returned. Identity returned. Inner tension returned. Temporary silence is not the same as transformation. So he made another difficult decision. He left those teachers too. Imagine this. Leaving comfort is hard. Leaving respected teachers is harder. Because authority is attractive. Following a system feels safe. But Siddhartha would not accept partial answers. This shows a powerful spiritual principle. Borrowed truth cannot replace direct seeing. You can inherit beliefs, you can inherit rituals, you can inherit identity, but you cannot inherit awakening. At this point, his search became more severe. He turned toward a group of extreme ascetics, those who believed liberation comes through total denial of the body. They taught, desire lives in the flesh. Destroy comfort, destroy desire. Destroy desire, end suffering. It sounded logical. It was also incomplete. but he would test it fully. Next, we enter the harshest period of his journey, the years of extreme self-denial, and why suffering alone does not create wisdom. The years of extreme asceticism, when effort becomes error. After leaving his early meditation teachers, Siddhartha joined a group of extreme ascetics. These were spiritual practitioners who believed that liberation comes through severe self-denial. Their reasoning was simple. Desire causes suffering. The body generates desire. Therefore, weaken the body, weaken desire. So they practiced harsh disciplines, long fasting, little sleep, exposure to heat and cold, breath control to the point of pain, complete rejection of comfort. They believed pain purified the soul. Siddhartha committed fully, not halfway, not casually, fully. He reduced food intake to almost nothing. Some accounts say he ate a few grains a day. His body became extremely thin, bones visible, strength nearly gone. He pushed discipline to the edge of death. Understand this clearly. He did not reject this path without testing it. He lived it completely, so his conclusion would be real, not theoretical. After years of extreme practice, he reached a critical realization. Weakness is not freedom. Pain is not wisdom. Self-torture is not awakening. His mind was not liberated. It was exhausted. His awareness was not clearer. It was strained. His body was not purified. It was collapsing. This is a crucial teaching moment for your audience, because many sincere seekers still make this mistake today. They believe, if I am hard on myself, I grow. If I punish myself, I become pure. If I suffer, I become spiritual. But forced suffering creates resistance, not clarity. One day, near physical collapse, a memory surfaced in his mind. A childhood moment. He remembered sitting quietly under a tree while his father worked nearby. No ritual, no force, no strain. Just natural, relaxed awareness. And in that memory, he recognized something profound. That peaceful awareness was closer to truth than extreme suffering. This insight changed everything. He saw the error. Both indulgence and self-torture are forms of attachment. One clings to pleasure. The other clings to control. Both are extremes. Neither is freedom. Soon after, a village woman offered him food, milk and rice. He accepted it. This was a turning point, not a failure. But the ascetics around him misunderstood. They thought, he has given up. He has fallen back into comfort. He has abandoned the path. So they left him. But Siddhartha had not abandoned the path. He had corrected it. Because truth is not found by going to extremes. Truth is found by seeing clearly. Next, we enter one of the most important discoveries in spiritual history, the middle way, the path between indulgence and self-punishment. The middle way, the discovery that changed the path. After years of luxury and years of self-denial, Siddhartha reached a conclusion that was both simple and revolutionary. Both extremes fail. Living only for pleasure does not bring lasting peace. Destroying the body does not bring lasting freedom. This insight became known as the middle way. But this phrase is often misunderstood, so we must explain it carefully. The middle way does not mean average living or weak compromise. It means balanced clarity. It is the path where the body is cared for, but not worshipped. Desire is understood, but not obeyed blindly. Discipline is practiced, but not turned into violence against oneself. He realized something extremely important. A disturbed body disturbs the mind. A starved brain cannot see clearly. Exhaustion is not enlightenment. Awakening requires energy, stability, and awareness, not collapse. This correction alone separates deep spirituality from harmful extremism. Because many paths, ancient and modern, still fall into extremes. Extreme pleasure, extreme denial, extreme belief, extreme identity. But extremes create tension, and tension blocks clear seeing. The middle way is the path of observation instead of reaction. Instead of chasing pleasure, observe desire. Instead of fighting pain, observe pain. Instead of obeying thought, observe thought. Observation replaces struggle. This is where his method becomes universal, because you do not need culture, religion, or philosophy to observe your mind. Anyone can observe. A farmer can observe. A scientist can observe. A child can observe. A monk can observe. Observation is the great equalizer. With his strength slowly restored, his mind steady, his direction clear, Siddhartha prepared for the deepest inner confrontation of his life. He chose a place beneath a tree, later known as the Bodhi tree, the tree of awakening. He sat down with a final resolve. I will not rise until I understand suffering completely. This was not a prayer, not a ritual, not a hope. It was a commitment to direct seeing. And what happened next was not comfort, but confrontation with the deepest forces of the mind. The night under the Bodhi tree, the inner confrontation. Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree with a final decision. He would not get up until he understood suffering at its root. Not its symptoms, not its stories, its root. He was no longer experimenting, no longer comparing teachers, no longer trying systems. Now he was looking directly. This is the turning difference between searching and seeing. As he sat in deep awareness, the mind began to resist. This resistance is described in Buddhist tradition through the symbol of Mara. Mara is often described as a tempter or demon, but for clear teaching, understand this. Mara represents the forces inside the human mind that resist awakening. Fear, doubt, desire, pride, identity, attachment to self-image, not a creature, a psychological reality. First came temptation, pleasant images, comfort memories, sensory desire. The mind saying, return to ease. Why struggle? Live normally. He observed and did not follow. Then came fear. What if you disappear? What if this path leads nowhere? What if you are wrong? He observed and did not run. Then came doubt. Who are you to seek truth? You are not special. You are wasting your life. He observed and did not believe. This is the core teaching moment. He did not fight thoughts. He did not suppress thoughts. He did not obey thoughts. He observed thoughts. And when thoughts are observed clearly, they lose authority. This is a universal law of awareness. What you see clearly controls you less. What you observe steadily weakens in grip. Tradition says Mara demanded proof of his right to awaken. Symbolically, this means the ego demands identity. Awareness needs none. Siddhartha touched the earth. This gesture is deeply symbolic. It means, I do not claim authority from status. I stand on reality itself. Presence, not position. Through the night, layers of illusion fell. He saw how the mind creates suffering through grasping and resisting. He saw how identity is constructed from memory and habit. He saw how craving builds psychological chains, not imposed chains, self-created chains. And as morning approached, clarity stabilized. Not as a vision, but as understanding. Not as ecstasy, but as freedom. He did not become divine. He became awake. What awakening means, enlightenment explained clearly. At dawn, after the long night of deep observation, Siddhartha became what history calls the Buddha, the awakened one. But we must explain this carefully, because many people misunderstand awakening as something magical or supernatural. The Buddha did not grow wings. He did not become a god. He did not gain cosmic powers that removed human reality. What changed was this. He saw clearly how suffering is created and how it ends. Awakening is not becoming something extra. It is seeing through what is false. He saw three core truths directly through observation. First, everything that arises changes. Nothing in experience stays permanently the same. Body changes, emotions change, thoughts change, circumstances change. Trying to hold what changes creates tension and fear. Second, clinging creates suffering. Not pain itself, but clinging to pleasure and resisting pain. Example. Understand this simply. Pain happens. That is natural. But this must not happen to me. That is mental resistance, and it adds suffering. Pleasure happens. That is natural. But this must never leave me. That is clinging, and it adds suffering. Third, what we call self is not as solid as we believe. He observed that identity is built from memories, habits, reactions, labels, stories. But none of these are permanent or fixed. This does not mean you do not exist. It means the self you defend is more fluid than you think. And what is fluid does not need to be protected with fear. This insight brings freedom. Because if identity is not fixed, you can grow without terror. You can change without collapse. You can learn without shame. Awakening is not escape from life. It is freedom inside life. Pain can still happen, but panic does not rule. Loss can still happen, but identity does not shatter. Thoughts can still appear, but they are not obeyed automatically. Another critical truth. The Buddha did not say, "Believe me." He said, "See for yourself." That is why his path is based on practice, not belief. Observation, not worship. After awakening, he did not immediately begin teaching. He paused, because a deep question arose. Can this be explained without being misunderstood? The decision to teach. Compassion over silence. After awakening, the Buddha remained quiet for a time. Not confused, not uncertain, but reflective. He understood something important. Truth that is seen directly is difficult to explain in words. Language divides. Experience is whole. Words describe, but they cannot fully transfer seeing. He questioned, if I try to explain this, will people turn it into belief instead of practice? This concern is very deep, because once truth becomes belief only, people defend it instead of discovering it. They argue instead of observing. They form identity instead of awakening. According to tradition, he first leaned towards silence. Not from selfishness, but from realism. He saw how strongly humans cling to views, rituals, and fixed identity. He knew many would misunderstand. But then another insight arose. Some are ready. Some are suffering deeply enough to listen carefully. Some are not full of answers, they are full of questions. This is compassion, not forcing truth, but offering a path. Not demanding followers, but guiding seekers. So he chose to teach, not to convert, but to clarify. Not to be worshipped, but to be understood. His first thought was of his former teachers, the meditation masters he once studied under. But they had already died. So he turned toward the 5 ascetics who once practiced with him, the ones who left when he chose the middle way. He walked to find them. This journey is symbolic. Awakening does not isolate. It returns to serve. Real insight does not withdraw from humanity. It comes back with understanding. When they first saw him approaching, those 5 former companions doubted him. They believed he had failed when he abandoned extreme fasting. But something about his presence had changed. Calm without pride, clarity without force, peace without withdrawal. They listened, and this became the first teaching. The first teaching, the 4 Noble Truths explained clearly. The Buddha met the 5 ascetics in a deer park near Sarnath. There he gave his first teaching. It was not a sermon of belief, it was a framework of understanding. He presented what later became known as the 4 Noble Truths. Not truths to believe, truths to examine. Think of them like a doctor's method. 1. Recognize the illness. 2. Identify the cause. 3. Know that healing is possible. 4. Follow the treatment path. Clear, practical, direct. First noble truth. There is suffering. This is often misunderstood as pessimism, but it is actually honesty. He did not say life is only suffering. He said suffering exists in human experience. Pain, loss, aging, fear, disappointment, uncertainty, inner conflict. No human escapes these completely. Ignoring suffering does not remove it. Understanding suffering begins freedom from it. Second noble truth. Suffering has a cause. Suffering is not random punishment. Its root cause is craving and clinging. Craving for pleasure to stay, craving for pain to leave, craving for identity to feel solid, craving for reality to obey preference. This is subtle, Listen carefully. Desire itself is not the problem. Blind attachment is. Wanting food is natural. Believing happiness depends only on food, suffering begins. Wanting love is natural. Demanding love never change, suffering begins. Third noble truth. Suffering can end. This is the hopeful turning point. If suffering has a cause, it also has a release. When clinging weakens, mental suffering weakens. Not because life becomes perfect, but because reaction becomes wiser. This is freedom within reality, not escape from reality. Fourth noble truth. There is a path. Freedom is not achieved by wishing. It is practiced through a way of living and seeing called the Noble Eightfold Path. Not 8 steps in order, 8 qualities practiced together. We will explain each clearly next. This first teaching was not meant to create followers. It was meant to create practitioners, not believers, observers. The Eightfold Path, the training for inner freedom. The Buddha taught that freedom from suffering is not reached through belief, but through cultivation. He described 8 connected practices called the Noble Eightfold Path. Not 8 rules, not commandments. 8 areas of training. They support each other like parts of a wheel. We will walk through them one by one. 1. Right view. Clear seeing. Right view means understanding reality more accurately, seeing that actions have consequences. Clinging creates suffering. Change is constant. Awareness is possible. It is not adopting a doctrine. It is correcting distortion. Seeing clearly instead of assuming blindly. 2. Right intention, inner direction. This is about the motive behind action, training the heart toward non-harm, goodwill, letting go, compassion. 2 people can do the same action, but intention changes the inner result. Awareness begins with motive. 3. Right speech, truthful and careful words. Speech shapes relationships and mind. The Buddha advised speech that is truthful, useful, kind, timely. Avoid speech that is false, divisive, cruel, careless. This is not moral control, it is mental clarity. Speech that harms others disturbs the speaker first. 4. Right action, ethical conduct. Right action means behavior that reduces harm, not as religious rule, but as psychological hygiene. Avoid unnecessary harm, exploitation, abuse, stealing, cruelty. Why? Because harmful action agitates the mind and blocks awareness. Peaceful action stabilizes the mind for insight. 5. Right livelihood, clean earning. How one earns a living affects the mind. Work that directly harms others creates inner conflict. The Buddha advised avoiding livelihoods built on violence, deception, addiction, exploitation. This is not about status. It is about alignment. Work that does not poison the conscience supports clarity. 6. Right effort, wise energy use. Right effort is not strain. It is intelligent energy. The Buddha noticed something subtle. The mind is always growing something, helpful patterns or harmful patterns. Right effort means learning to guide this growth. 4 practices define it. 1. Prevent unhelpful states from taking over. 2. Reduce unhelpful states that appear. 3. Encourage helpful states to arise. 4. Strengthen helpful states that exist. Simple example. If anger appears, notice it early. Do not feed it with mental stories. Shift attention to clarity and breath. This is effort without violence. Not suppression, redirection. 7. Right mindfulness, continuous awareness. This is one of the most important teachings. Mindfulness means remembering to observe experience as it happens, not drifting unconsciously, not reacting automatically. Seeing, body sensations, emotions, thoughts, reactions, impulses, as they arise. Mindfulness creates space between stimulus and reaction. In that space, freedom grows. Without mindfulness, habit runs life. With mindfulness, choice becomes possible. This is not only meditation practice. It includes mindful walking, mindful eating, mindful speaking, mindful listening, mindful emotion awareness, living awake, not mechanical. 8. Right concentration, stable attention. Concentration means training attention to stay steady and unified. A scattered mind cannot see deeply. A steady mind can observe layers of reality. Through meditation, attention becomes less jumpy and more stable. When attention stabilizes, insight deepens, reactivity weakens, clarity increases. Concentration is not trance. It is collected awareness. Awake, not numb. These 8 elements together form a complete path. Clear seeing, clean intention, careful speech, ethical action, aligned livelihood, wise effort, mindfulness, concentration. Not belief, training. This path is open to all humans, not limited to culture or religion. Because suffering is human, and awareness is human. Meditation. What the Buddha actually taught about practice. Many people hear the word meditation and imagine something mysterious or difficult. But the Buddha taught meditation as a practical training of attention, not escape, not trance, not imagination. Observation. Meditation in this path has 2 main functions. 1. Stabilize the mind. 2. Understand experience. First stability, then insight. Just like clear water must become still before you can see the bottom, meditation begins with the body. The Buddha often began with something simple, breathing, because breath is always present, always real, always happening now. Practice begins by sitting and noticing the breath as it is, not controlling it, not forcing it, observing it. Air enters, known. Air leaves, known. When the mind wanders, and it will, you gently return to the breath. No anger, no judgment. Returning is the training. Why this works? Attention is like a muscle. Each time you return it, it strengthens. Each time you notice distraction, awareness grows. Distraction is not failure. It is part of training. Over time, the mind becomes less scattered, less reactive, more steady, more clear. This steadiness allows deeper seeing. The second layer, insight meditation. Once attention becomes more stable, observation expands. Now the practitioner observes sensations, emotions, thoughts, urges, reactions, as events, not identity. Instead of saying, "I am angry," observation sees, anger is present. This shift is powerful because what is observed is no longer the self. It becomes experience, not identity. Key principle: do not fight experience. The Buddha did not teach suppression. He taught observation without clinging and without resistance. Pleasant feeling, observed. Unpleasant feeling, observed. Neutral feeling, observed. No grabbing, no pushing away. This balanced observation weakens craving and aversion, the roots of suffering. Meditation is not only sitting. Formal meditation trains the skill. Daily life applies the skill. Mindful walking, mindful speaking, mindful listening, mindful emotion awareness. Life becomes practice. Meditation is not about becoming special. It is about becoming clear. Compassion and wisdom, the two wings of awakening. Wisdom is seeing clearly. Compassion is responding kindly. Wisdom understands suffering. Compassion moves to reduce it. The Buddha did not awaken to escape humanity. He awakened to understand it. And from that understanding, compassion naturally grows. Not forced kindness, natural care. What is wisdom in this path? Wisdom is not accumulation of knowledge. It is insight into reality. Seeing, everything changes. Clinging creates suffering. Awareness brings freedom. Identity is not fixed. Wisdom removes illusion. It sees causes and effects clearly. It understands that harmful action comes from confusion and pain, not from evil essence. This understanding changes how we respond to others. What is compassion in this path? Compassion is not pity, not superiority, not emotional weakness. Compassion is the sincere wish, may suffering decrease. It includes oneself and others, because self-hatred is also suffering. The Buddha taught that compassion must include the struggling, the angry, the ignorant, the fearful, the harmful. Not approving harm, but understanding its roots. Why wisdom must guide compassion. Without wisdom, compassion burns out. You try to save everyone. You absorb everyone's pain. You collapse emotionally. Wisdom brings balance. Help where you can. Do not cling to outcomes. Act without attachment to control. Why compassion must guide wisdom. Without compassion, wisdom becomes pride. I see clearly, others are foolish. This is not awakening. This is ego wearing spiritual language. Real wisdom softens the heart. The Buddha's presence was described as calm, but also warm, clear, but also gentle, firm, but also kind. Practical compassion practice. He taught simple daily practices. Pause before reacting. Listen fully before judging. Speak to reduce harm. Act to reduce suffering. Forgive when understanding grows. Compassion is not abstract. It is behavioral. The Buddha and religion. What he did and did not claim. The Buddha did not claim to be a god. He did not claim to be a prophet sent by a god. He did not claim to be the only awakened one possible. He called himself awake. That is all. This is important because his authority did not come from heaven. It came from observation. He did not say, "Believe because I say so." He said, "Examine and see." He warned against blind belief. In one of his most famous teachings, he told listeners not to accept something as true simply because it is written, it is traditional, a teacher says it, a scripture says it, a community believes it. He said, test it in your own experience. See if it reduces suffering. See if it leads to clarity and compassion. If it does, practice it. If it does not, question it. This is radical spiritual responsibility. He did not try to replace all traditions. The Buddha did not travel saying, "Your religion is wrong, follow mine." He spoke to people within their cultures and pointed them toward awareness. Some remained in their traditions and practiced mindfulness. Others formed monastic communities. His teaching was method-centered, not identity-centered. Practice, not label. He avoided metaphysical arguments. People often asked him questions like, how did the universe begin? Is the soul eternal? What happens after death exactly? Often he did not answer directly. Why? Because he believed speculation without awakening does not end suffering. If a man is struck by a poisoned arrow, he needs the arrow removed, not a lecture about who made it. The Buddha focused on immediate suffering, immediate causes, immediate freedom. Practical liberation, not endless theory. This makes his teaching universally usable, because observation belongs to no religion. Awareness belongs to no culture. Compassion belongs to no doctrine. This is why his path can sit beside other paths, not against them. One expression of truth, not the only expression of truth. The moral and life lessons, what this teaching asks of us today. The Buddha's teaching is not asking you to become someone else. It is asking you to become aware of how you are living now. Not to adopt a label, but to develop clarity. Not to escape the world, but to see it without illusion. Core Moral Lessons 1. Do not live unconsciously. Most suffering is not fate, it is habit. Unexamined reactions, unseen attachments, unquestioned thoughts. Awareness is the first moral act, to see before acting. 2. Do not cling blindly. Pleasure changes, Status changes, people change, circumstances change. Clinging turns change into suffering. Appreciate without gripping. Care without possession. 3. Reduce harm wherever you can. Not because of punishment, but because harm disturbs the mind. Cruelty poisons the one who carries it. Compassion steadies the one who practices it. Small daily kindness is great spiritual practice. 4. Train the mind, do not obey it. A thought appearing is not a command. An emotion arising is not an order. Observe first, respond second. This is freedom. 5. Balance discipline with gentleness. Do not live in indulgence. Do not live in self-violence. The middle way remains a living instruction. Care for the body, train the mind, soften the heart. 6. Practice over belief. Belief does not transform character. Practice does. 5 minutes of real observation is worth more than hours of argument. Live the teaching. Do not decorate yourself with it. Life application, daily practice. Guidance. When anger appears, observe it before speaking. When desire appears, observe it before obeying. When fear appears, observe it before concluding. When joy appears, observe it without clinging. In every moment, ask, what is happening in the mind right now? That question alone begins awakening. Unity Teaching Reflection for your channel mission. The Buddha does not stand against other teachers. He stands beside them, offering method. Where others teach love, he teaches awareness. Where others teach compassion, he teaches observation. Where others teach truth, he teaches direct seeing. One light, many lamps. One awakening, many paths. Closing reflection line. Awakening is not becoming special. Awakening is becoming clear, and clarity is available now. Ober the Gods. As within, so without. As above, so below. The Master of Mind.